fired from Sub-Basement D of a major motion picture studio. The development executives must go to the last places in Hollywood with money. Now streaming, Reboot It! That's great. That's a great intro. Hey, did you guys do that yourself? Listen. Hey, Kevin, good to meet you. Welcome to Marvel Studios. Can you just go around and introduce yourselves? I just need to know who I'm dealing with here. Producer Bill.
Billy Business.
Ed Greer.
Ron Swallow.
All right. I like the energy. Gentlemen, I brought you in here because your old boss, John Peters, he brought us that Wolverine movie. It really worked. Didn't really want to work with John Peters, but we gritted through because that's what we do. We make good products here. We get it done no matter what. So listen, I've got this Disney Plus thing going on. I got to tell you, X-Men has been on our minds. And look, guys, I'm going to level with you. People have been raking me over the coals over this Quicksilver nonsense. They thought we were going to do it in WandaVision, and honestly, I was just trying to fuck people. I don't know. And listen, I get it, man. We were messing with you. I thought they'd take it differently, and they didn't. Listen, by the way, the little guy, Swallow. Is your name Swallow?
That's correct. Yeah, it's the best last name in the world.
Okay.
Swallow, I need you to make eye contact when you're looking at me. Turn your head maybe 10 degrees left. 10 degrees left. No. That's too much. Swallow. I swear to God. Okay, that's right. People call me a little bit of a control freak, but it's not that. It's that I know what works, right? I know what works, and I'm telling you that's a better frame. So just go with it, okay? Can't argue with that, okay? But look, I'm really glad to have you guys here, and X-Men, go nuts. Because I swear to God, if I have to hear about this one more... Listen, I'm going to go have lunch. I'll see you guys later. Okay.
Ooh, he's more intense than I was expecting, to be honest with you.
He's tightly wound. He's got a lot going on, that Kevin Feige. All right, so listen.
No pressure, just, 18 years of fantastic movies to keep making, right?
Well, look, I like the fact that we're already keeping our Wolverine movie in continuity, so we're going to jump off from there. As we always do, guys, should we just start out, what do people expect out of an X-Men movie?
Well, I think at this point, with, it's 2020, the year of our Lord 2021, and these started in 2000, I think at this point, people are just expecting a fresh new take on it. I think X-Men First Class was something that a lot of people thought was going to be that fresh new take, and then they kind of used the old continuity as a crutch. But I think when you talk about doing something new with them, for a lot of people, our generation and even new generations, I think their staple of X-Men is kind of, the animated series and what's happening in the comics now. So I just think whatever we do, I think it can't be any sort of a retread, which is going to be tough because they did a lot in those other series. So it's like, throw out the leather costumes, throw out a lot of the, the Logan teacher stuff. I don't, that was a big part of that trilogy too. So we have our work cut out for us. I think people expect new, and it's going to be hard to do new in this one.
I would agree with that. Ed, what are you thinking?
Part of me goes, I don't want to see any more X-Men movies for a while. I want X-Men to earn the right to have a movie. Wolverine, they can say that they put him on the screen before. The only actual Wolverine movie that exists is Logan. And to me, a super Wolverine fan, half of that is just weird to me as well. It's like they got it half right and like half wrong. It's like this Borg of Wolverine. I think our Wolverine is actually the right Wolverine, and I think if he's going to be in something with us, I think we got to use him sparingly, because what they used to do is jam Wolverine up your butt and have him be the entry character into the X-Men and make them all pale by comparison to this little hairy dude. And we can't do that again. We just can't. We have to make these people worthy of watching. And I think that might merit us spending more screen time with them than a movie. I think it might be cool to build these guys up.
Interesting. Ron, what are we thinking?
You know, it's funny that Ed mentioned that, because I was also going to agree that we should not be using even our Wolverine, which is great, to enter into this situation. I think we have to go an MCU route, some type of route. But I just want to, I guess the thing that I'll tell you what I personally would like to see is us actually take the X-Men in the way that people say it was supposed to be, and actually make a metaphor about racism. That's kind of like what I would like to do. You know, we could do it subtly, but I would love of that to happen. Now, I don't think people want that. I think people want, you know, the Dark Phoenix on fire, and they want the cool powers. But I think we can give them something they didn't know they want.
Do you honestly think that people want that? I feel like, especially the Dark Phoenix saga, we've gotten twice now, and it has made zero impact. You know, I'll just say from my perspective, I don't know. I'm kind of with Ed. I don't know if people actually want any more X-Men. And I feel like there's an assumption that they do. I feel like there's an assumption that, oh my God, people love the X-Men. But do they? And that's where I think we get into this weird thing when you're talking about audience expectations. It's like, so much has been done. It's been diminishing returns almost the entire time, with a small blip for First Class. But it's like, is there even a cinematic fan base for this franchise anymore?
Well, Ed, if I smell what you're cooking, are you suggesting we take more of a Disney Plus kind of situation where it's like the X-Men would be almost like an anthology series where each episode, or there'd be like mini arcs for a character? So we're not necessarily doing an X-Men adventure. We're just kind of seeing a lot of different origins for maybe a core group of what will be the X-Men. Was that kind of what you're talking about?
It's kind of like that, but I also think it's one of these things where we have all these different characters, and I think if you look at television as a piece, the most that they've ever been able to use this many characters is in something kind of like Star Trek, which in essence was 6 people, differing personalities, and yes, sometimes an episode would be based around one person, but for the most part, they were these large stories that had to take these multiple little groups and play with to make the story work. We have that exact same setup here. And yes, a lot of the adventures the X-Men get into are things we could do in 40 minutes. As you know, we have access to Disney Plus, and they just, our show up against something like WandaVision, they loved WandaVision so much, and it didn't have the characters we have. It didn't have the overarching story and history that we could draw on. So I think we could have a very interesting episodic, but with kernels that go through and make larger plots and large arcs over. I think it's an interesting television property. In a movie, you're forced to make it about Wolverine. You're forced to make it about Kitty Pryde. You're forced to make it about this person. We would have more runway and playroom.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that you find in ensemble movies that we've actually run into in the past is that the more people in your cast, the less complete stories you can tell, or you end up just isolating 1 or 2 people, making the story about them, and everybody else becomes a supporting character, neither one of which really is what the X-Men has been in its entire history. And I guess this is a good time to jump into the X-Men as a franchise. This is way too sprawling to get into comprehensively, but I will try to give the Cliff Notes version. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the heyday of Marvel Comics, the X-Men were actually one of their post-Avengers creations. This was sort of after they had built out the core of the Marvel Universe. Stan Lee was stuck trying to come up with new origin stories, and he just landed on they're born that way. And such was born the Uncanny X-Men. Starting as a group of 5 teenagers led by the wheelchair-bound, super powerful telepath Charles Xavier, the X-Men started out fighting the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and very soon, even though Stan Lee did not actually intend this, the popular culture started to read a Martin Luther King, Malcolm X divide amongst Magneto and Professor X, when it came to the rights of mutants in society. From those humble beginnings, the X-Men added dozens, if not hundreds of characters to their roster. It became one of the most sprawling soap operas in all of comics, spinning off into the most popular, best-selling comics of all time, X-Force, X-Factor, Jim Lee's X-Men, which has still sold more copies than any other comic book ever published. And along comes the year 2000. And in the year 2000, after an awesome animated series in the early 90s that really set the tone for what the X-Men could be on screen, the director Bryan Singer gave us a very controversial leather-clad version of the X-Men on the big screen, starring some absolutely venerable actors from Ian McKellen to Patrick Stewart to a superstar in the making with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. The X-Men franchise blew the doors off Hollywood superhero cinema, spawned not just sequels, but already a second go-around of the entire franchise. And if you count the Wolverine movies, a third. And so now we are left in a world where 10 X-Men movies have been made. If you're counting the Deadpool movies, it's even more than that. We have at least 3 different continuities, again, including the Deadpool movies. They've time traveled. They've had the Dark Phoenix rise twice, where Jean Grey achieved cosmic level power and threatened to destroy the world. We've used almost every great villain in the X-Men canon on screen. And now our task is to bring the X-Men into the MCU. We laid the pipeline with our Wolverine episode, which featured sort of a time-jumping plot line that was very small, but featured Wolverine being hunted down by an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. For murders he didn't commit, and having a run-in with the Abomination, and ultimately setting up in our world that mutants are this rising threat. There's maybe only a couple hundred of them out there, and the government knows, and a section of the government wants to kill all of them before the human race goes extinct. So we've got this interesting ticking clock. It's definitely a different way to look at mutants in the world because, you know, as we've talked a lot about in our comments section, Captain America is a one-off science experiment. You know who he is and you know who he answers to. Mutants are sort of this hidden threat. It's like if somebody was keeping nuclear bombs in their garage in the suburbs. And so how does the world react to that? So here we are. Ed, you already took us down the road a little bit of maybe a Disney Plus pitch. Any strong thoughts on what this story should be? And are we leaning in all the way in, as Ron said, to the racial allegory of the X-Men? What do we think?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be too on brand. I think it is interesting, though. There's like 2 ways to do the race stuff. One is a bunch of kumbaya bullcrap, and I'm not maligning peaceful protest. I am saying that to me, it's more of this situation where people, you can say that the government's trying to kill you, but nobody believes you. And I think that's the status the X-Men should be in this. It isn't so much everybody hates mutants and mutie scum and all this kind of stuff. I would posit there might even be a couple of artists that popped up during the blip who I kind of identify as mutants. Maybe Dazzler is an out mutant and who's a superstar. And that way you get the modern interpretation of race relations. Whereas if I try to cry racism, some dork could come up and go, but Will Smith is the biggest action hero in the movies. Barack Obama. They could say all this crap and say that I'm accepted, when in actuality, you watch Judas and the Black Messiah, and the government is literally trying to kill my leaders since the dawn of time. So it's like you have Bolivar Trask or whoever these shadow people are doing bad stuff, but also the X-Men have their own ways of making adventures. I just want to put this out there right off the bat so we don't get too far down in this allegory thing. X-Men can go to different dimensions. X-Men can go to space. X-Men in their own machinations with each other can have adventures that have nothing to do with the government persecuting them and everything to do with their family dynamics.
It's a good question. I just want to seize on that for a second because it's a good question. Do we want this to be more cosmically minded with the other planets and other dimensions, or do we want this, especially as a series, to be something smaller and more contained?
I
Because there's
saw
only so
it.
much space travel we can do in a series. Sorry, Billy.
No, just I saw it much more in tone and in line with Wolverine, which if I'm wrong, correct me, but in that pitch, it's almost like people don't even quite know that mutants are out there. The government knows, but we don't know. So I think to, in terms of like the the racial allegories and stuff, like I don't know if people would have prejudices against this yet, because I doubt even a lot of people would believe that it's true. I think that could be the more interesting kind of take, is that we've always seen X-Men where it's just like, we hate mutants, but it's like, well, in the MCU you have Thor and you have a Hulk, like there's no reason yet to hate them. But if there's this conspiracy theory that some people can spontaneously turn into a super freak, that to me, that just sounds like, in our world, maybe it's almost more of like a thriller in a sense. It's like, I would want to see how our first, I'm not saying we have to do First Class, so when I say First Class, don't take it as that. But if it's a series, we're following, maybe a couple people, like how this First Class found their way to Xavier, because I really liked what you said at the beginning, Ed, because I agree with you. Like, we haven't earned X-Men status yet, so I'm really hesitant to just jump right into the staples of, the racial allegories and big cosmic adventures. Like, I almost want to keep this like a tight thriller, so at the end you're just like jonesing for like, all right, now I'm ready to see like a real X-Men movie. Like, I want to do like a really elaborate, setting the table, I guess.
Ed said something about Dazzler that I think is an interesting thing. If Dazzler is out, but not out, but sort of like maybe even more in disguise, and people don't know that she's not just an entertainer, but somebody who is a mutant and is kind of hiding it because they've been, I don't know, hunted down at one point or another, wants to meet Dazzler because he or she can tell that she's a mutant, and try to get her to believe that someone's after her. I don't know.
I don't think there has to be a reason, by the way, like just as a my 2 cents, I don't think there has to be a reason why people would hide these things. If I had the ability to like click my fingers and fire came out, I guarantee you that I would not be showing that to everybody. I would be terrified, for one, that I could do this. And then maybe I would try to poke around, just like try to casually ask if anyone's ever heard of anything like that. But just keeping myself safe, like I just know better than, like, I don't think it needs to be like, well, they're hunting them down. We know they are, but it's just like, I don't know. I think like just using logic, like I think if you had something like that happen to you, especially in your teenage years, if something really weird just happened, I feel like you'd be too embarrassed and too afraid to say anything. I think that's why you would keep it to yourself, personally.
Absolutely. So where do we start this then?
Well, I mean, I think we're on kind of 2 tracks here. I think we need to make some big decisions. The first one is, do we want this story to sort of be pre-establishment of the Xavier school? You know what I mean? Like, First Class sort of gave us a version of that story. Now, granted, it was set in the 60s and made some very specific choices, but that idea of like Charles Xavier establishing the school was done. So are we talking about a world where that has happened, is about to happen, or do we not even touch that, which might be kind of strange?
Again, just my 2 cents. Like, I almost think that it's like, again, like I have no problem taking some liberties with certain things, especially something that's as long lasting as like X-Men, where it's just like, maybe Xavier's been around like with this school for kids, and maybe it's more of just like a, if you have it, you can come here and you're safe and no one's, whatever. But maybe there isn't necessarily an X-Men team yet. Like, the school and the team don't necessarily have to be established at the exact same time, in my opinion. Like, it could be the school's been around and Xavier's kind of been quietly helping these kids, and then this is like, finally Scott Summers is like one of the first ones that comes. It's like, dude, we kind of have a responsibility to make like a little bit of a team if we can do all these things,
Ed, what are your thoughts?
I just want to make it really clear. I don't think it would have to be super big to involve adventures started by the X-Men. To Billy's point, though, even if it is adventures in service of gathering the group up, because they'd be monsters to each other. You know what I mean? Every time you meet a mutant, it isn't, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" It is, to Billy's point, "Hey, buddy, you want to come join the, oh God, he set me on fire and running away into the forest." And it's a whole ass adventure to try to get this person to be cool. And then maybe the next episode, it's Sunfire. And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm gung ho. I want to burn some stuff up. I'm from Japan. I'm honor." You know what I mean? Different, even gathering the team is an adventure. And frankly, if I had my way, the dang movie would come out after season 2.
Right. I mean, I think that's sort of what we're circling, is the idea that the series is sort of a big setup for the movie, in the same way that like WandaVision was the setup for Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and a couple other things, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
I think where I might be getting hung up is like, if we're going to keep the momentum that Marvel usually has, I don't think that we can do a series with one-off adventures. I feel like we need a villain and we need a goal, and that needs to propel us through the series. And for my money, I do not want to tell the Xavier story again. I feel like we just got so caught up in the machinations of that school over the course of those dozen X-Men. I mean, even the Deadpool movies, the sequel to the Deadpool movie spent a ton of time at the Xavier school, or it felt like anyway, had a lot to do with the Xavier school. And can we do X-Men without that? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
That's a great question, because I mean, most of the time that is kind of important for Charles Xavier to be part of the X-Men.
Ron, not to cut you off, but like, can we, especially if we're talking about a prequel to an X-Men movie, are we doing an X-Force or X-Factor or New Mutants series? New Mutants, I feel like we should stay away from, so as not to tie ourselves to that movie that bombed horribly. But like, are we doing something other than conventional X-Men here? Can we? Should we?
I mean, I like X-Factor as an idea, just because, I mean, and not even having to do anything from the X-Factor comics specifically, but just the idea that what we're talking about is, you know, a different X chromosome, and it's the X-Factor, and there are people who are all involved with that situation, having to go figure out how to survive. I mean, it just makes sense to me. I mean, you're saying something about a bad guy and have a specific thing. We already have a bad guy who is trying to kill them. It feels weird to me to take away the thing that we already worked on when we can use the thing that we already have.
I don't disagree.
Olivia Trask.
I actually was thinking like it would almost be poetic in a certain way that, you know, somehow your season ends kind of the same way that Wolverine ends. Like maybe the group that we follow at the very end, that's when they finally get to the school, you know?
Wow.
I mean, they realize that together they have a better chance to survive.
Well, hold on.
There's a group of
here's an idea. I gotta pitch this. Sorry, Ron.
Okay,
but
do it.
What if Charles Xavier is played as the villain in our X Factor series? X Factor was always a government-run team. What if we're following a government-run team that is essentially trying to hunt down Charles Xavier? And so you're flipping the dynamic completely, where you're telling the story of essentially the team being radicalized to Xavier's side. Maybe they're even trying to infiltrate the school. You know, I'm just trying to find a totally different way in to establishing the dynamic of X-Men. And I feel like, what if the Olivia Trask setup gives us the bandwidth to like create, you know, X Factor could essentially be like an Avengers training unit, whatever they want. Maybe they even have a pretense where they're using it to round up mutants to kill them, but they're telling them that they're joining some new team, right? Going with what Ron said, that like X Factor is a cool idea because it's not necessarily a team. It could just be talking about like the gene or what have you. Like, let's really shake up what mutants are and how we go into the story.
So just so I'm getting this clear, this government team, they're finding like 5 mutants to infiltrate Xavier's school with the idea that Xavier's the bad guy,
Yes.
and then the kids realize it's the other way around,
Yeah, I mean, and the
Maybe.
whole time.
or maybe
mean,
some
I
of
would
them
even-
don't, and some of them
Right.
go the Brotherhood route.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would also argue that maybe because this is a very government thing to do, well, evil government thing to do, I should say, is lure in people with promises of glory and safety, and then take that all out away from them once they're there. And so maybe a few of them they see as useful, but then there's a bunch of them that they're literally just trying to kill.
Or you maybe kind of retcon a little bit or steal a little bit from the X-Men 3, everyone's favorite. What if the government's like, because I said, like, if you had these mutations, some of them aren't cool, one, and some of them are scary as hell, or it's scary as hell for anyone. What if they're like, we can fix you. We have the vaccine for this. Do this thing for us and we'll get vaccine. Because half of them afterwards, the Brotherhood half would be like, wait a minute, I'm awesome. Why would you want to depower me? And then then some of the people in the group would have at least a reason already to kind of go towards a Magneto mindset as opposed to Xavier. Does that make sense?
The only thing that doesn't track in that, I like all that. The only thing that doesn't track is the idea that the government would already have a mutant cure in a world where, like,
they don't.
Oh,
It's
so
a
they
lie.
just don't
Yeah,
completely.
it's a lie. Yeah.
It's a lie to get them to show up so that they can either kill them or use them.
Yeah,
If
the
they don't find
vaccine
them
is just
useful-
they put you down.
Yeah.
That's their
If
vaccine.
they don't find
you know?
they don't find you useful, they kill you, and if they find you useful, they'll kill you later, and that's their plan.
Right.
And we can
Right.
have a scene that is, literally Olivia Trask telling them the plan, and then making it happen. I mean, I don't know,
Right.
something
But,
along
but
those lines.
could we combine a little bit of Genosha and a little bit of the U-Men into this Boulevard Trask unit that's doing the X Factors jazz? Because I'm trying to play with you guys. I get what you're saying, and it is interesting. The only thing I got to say is, though, the X-Men being the only part of the Marvel universe that is not military porn, I think us kind of going that military porn entry point and then having the kids break out of that is smart. I think we should go with that. I think that's an interesting thing, but like setting up exactly why these people are messing with mutants. And I think one of the things that has never been touched on is the people like the U-Men who and Genosians capture mutants and tamper their powers a little bit and put them to work. That's its own horror. But the U-Men used people to find mutants so they could rip out their organs and stuff and try to become mutants themselves. And it very much echoes the I talk black, I can samba dance, I eat with chopsticks, and I hate minorities still. I just want to take their stuff.
Dude, I love this idea, and I'll tell you why I love that idea. Because they've been trying to make a super soldier since Captain America. And if they think that taking those organs makes a super soldier, they're definitely going to try that out.
I mean, I kind of love that too, and I think it could be an interesting takeoff from our Wolverine story, where if part of what they learn in the course of that story is that essentially this guy's immortal and he has this extraordinarily different physiology. That's a great impetus to be like, hey, let's try to rip that out of him so we can have it. And there's something kind of awesome about leaning into just the horror of like, we don't like you, but we want what you have. You said it, Ed, but
and
And
this
that's-
plot. I was just gonna say, and this plot has money and power. A lot of comic book stuff fails because it doesn't recognize, like, okay, you want to rule the world and kill everybody and make everybody vampires. To what end? It's just power for power's sake. That's stupid. You could have power, longevity, better life, physical powers, and billions of dollars making drugs and stuff for people. That could, like, kind of flipping the thing that they're doing in the comic books on its head. Instead of the X-Men having 1 billion patents on anti-cancer drugs that make them rich, the government ripping that out of them and taking it for themselves. The stripping of the natural resources of Africa. There's a lot of stuff in there.
I mean, that's literally what I was going to say. Is this is definitely goes with the allegory idea of talking about racism as well, because that was literally what was done to Jewish people black people. I mean, all on down the line, every person who was used, it would be like, are you useful for what we specifically want? Great, we'll use you. If you're not, we throw you out. And I think that's great. Like we're on to something, guys. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering, could we set up a world where a version of X Factor, a version of X Force, and a version of the X-Men already exist in some weird underdeveloped way where like the government is running the X Factor program, and it's what Billy described. It's like it's both an attempt to infiltrate other mutant organizations and a way to just tag and bag mutants. But then also Charles Xavier is running his school, and there's something weird at Xavier's, but nobody knows quite what it is. And maybe we don't even get into it in season 1 of this series. But meanwhile, maybe X-Force is sort of the human of it. Like, is X-Force sort of the organ harvesting, going with the idea that X-Force is sort of like the bloody militaristic version of X-Men? Is the X-Force team essentially trying to harvest organs? And so we get this whole weird sort of three-sided thing happening here.
Just yes, and that in the opposite direction. What if X-Force is not the people harvesting the organs? They're one of the only mutant groups, or there's only groups, period. If they're mutants, not mutant. The bottom line is, if they're the only ones knowing this sort of stuff is happening, X Factor is capturing mutants and doing stuff, but they don't really know what's going on, or else they wouldn't keep doing that stuff. They've been sort of brainwashed. Or rather, they've kind of like a lot of soldiers, frankly. When we go into these goofy ass wars, you have to go in thinking you're righteous, or else you're going to get killed. You can't think about all the geopolitics of everything while you're doing your job. You got to think of certain things as your job. So X Factor is maybe a couple mutants and a strike force of people doing all this bad stuff, capturing mutants, doing basically low-level Genosha type stuff. X-Force could be basically mutant terrorist organization who like has the temerity. Yeah, they have the temerity to fight against people who want to harvest their organs. They have the temerity to do that, and that's why they're wanted or whatever. And I think in the end, we would eventually get to the X-Men, the concept of we are all different people. We are forming a team. It's pacifist. It's proactive. It's not reductive. It's not terroristic. It's not the hate that hate produced. It's this good group that we got at the end, but we have to earn that.
No, 100%. I mean, I think that's it, right? Like if we can set up a world where mutants are very sparse and they have no code, right? Like mutants are diffused, and some of them are terrorists, and some of them are working for the government, and some of them are in hiding, and some of them are working against their own people. Then Xavier has a function. Xavier can then become that leader to be like, we are stronger together, and we need an ethos, and we need to stand for something, not just stand against all these other things.
Yep.
All right, and that's cool.
And over the course of the series, we're going to have to out this so that we can get a little bit more support. Like, draw attention to the fact that mutants exist. Yes, we exist. Yes, we're different from your Euro hammer gods and stuff, and that you could become one of us. And I know that's creepy, but we're cool now. All that stuff is earned more after this sort of war for the concept,
That's super interesting. I mean, and that kind of goes back to the Dazzler thing that you brought up originally, of like maybe if this is a 10-episode series, it's like in episode 4, just another bomb thrown out on the table. Like now there's a famous celebrity who's talking about like, I woke up 3 weeks ago and I could shoot energy out of my fingers. And it's like, well, that throws a wrinkle in everybody's plans trying to keep a lid on all this stuff.
Yeah, she's like the Hannah Montana of that world or whatever. Like, I mean, seriously, can you imagine if that happened? I mean, it's just she pops up. She's like super famous. Everybody knows her. She's a teenager. And then she's like, I thought I was going through puberty.
And to Billy's point, or rather to Billy's point, I envision him making, she's like Kiss. Her stage show is the big portion of it. The music's okay, but the stage show is amazing, and people will remember it forever. And there's gonna be lunch boxes,
Oh, guys, I think is Feige calling back in? Okay.
Okay, straighten up, guys. Straighten up, guys.
Get ready. Okay, here we go. Hey, Reboot crew, what's up? Good to see you guys. You guys are working hard. You're working hard. Listen, I don't want to hear what you've done yet because I just hooked a whale, gentlemen. A whale. Like I said, I don't know what to do with the X-Men. You probably don't know what to do with the X-Men. But I'll tell you something. We here at Marvel love a fresh perspective. And to that end, let me introduce you to the new executive producer of our X-Men franchise. You probably didn't see this coming, although Greer, I like that shirt. Mr. Martin Scorsese.
Oh my God.
Gentlemen, hello. How are you? Martin Scorsese here. Very nice to meet all of you. You're all looking well. Very, very well. I like the look of all of you guys.
I'm honored to be in your presence, sir.
Well, this is off to a good start already. I'm going to let you guys get acquainted. I can't wait to hear this pitch. It's going to be great. Lindsay, do I have that call with the premiere of China? Okay. Guys, I'm going to leave you with Marty. You're in good hands. Goodbye.
Okay. Reboot crew, here's the thing. When we talk about movies, I told Bob De Niro when we first started making pictures, I said, Bob, it's all about the script. I mean, the director might have something to do with it too. You know what I'm saying? But it's all about the script. It's all about the script. And so what you guys do, I respect it a lot. Here's what I don't get. I don't get superheroes. I don't get this whole thing, right? So first thing I say, what's the X-Men about? Bryan Singer said X-Men may be a homosexual metaphor. Other people on the internet, they say X-Men, maybe African-American experience. I get it. Here's what I say to you. What if the X-Men was an allegory for the experience of Italians and Jews in New York City in 1955? And hear me out. From what I understand, the villain, already a Jew. Makes sense. I'll tell you what else.
Wow, Marty.
I'll tell you what else. Here we go. I called Leo. I said, Leo, I'm making this picture with Marvel Studios. Leo says, Marty, you. I don't blame him. I really don't. But I'll tell you who I can get. I can get you Jonah. Jonah, he told me one time, Marty, any picture you produce, I'll be in it for $6. I say, Jonah, for you, I pay $5. But there you go. You got your Jewish lead. So Italian and Jewish street gangs in New York City, it's a tale as old as time. You got Jonah Hill. And last thing I'm going to say to you, when you make this picture, I don't like heroics. When you have power, people think you're a hero, you're on top, you do bad things, and then you tumble down, and then you end up in the gutter. Because herodom, it's a lie. We don't need to hear stories about heroes. So that's what I want you to do with X-Men. Italians, Jews, Jonah Hill, and tear down the hero archetype. Listen, I'm going to go get a coffee, Fran Lebowitz. I'm going to come back, me and Fran. Maybe I'll hear your pitch. Maybe I got something else to say. Maybe we get lunch. Who's to say? Okay. Guys, it was a pleasure. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Well, we thought Peters was bad.
Yeah, I don't know about some of those.
Well, I mean, the allegory.
Jonah Hill.
I mean,
Dislike
how
Jonah
can we use Jonah Hill?
It's a great question.
Who's a chubby? Oh, is he still chubby, or did he get buffed?
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's like it's like a mood ring, man. I don't know. Like every time I see him, he's different. But I think he's healthy. He's healthy right now. And honestly, I'm not. This is a blanket statement for all superhero movies going forward. It doesn't matter what their body type is today, because give them 6 months, Marvel will inject them with so many things, fun things, and they will be jacked. They will be jacked.
HGH.
So much. Don't even worry about.
That's a good point.
Throw the chubby thing out of your mind forever. It doesn't exist anymore. If
Well,
we
I
could
was
get
just
Chris
thinking of an
Pratt
actual-
to be washboard abs, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was more thinking about what character would he be able to play from the X-Men world, and I can't think of it. I was gonna say Dupe at first, but it's not Dupe. It's who's the guy who absorbs people? Who am I thinking of? No. Man, I can't think of his character's name. I'm sorry, guys. My mind is blanking on the character. I'm literally picturing him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
No. Okay. I was thinking about it. I think it's one of the people involved in the Trask organization, or it is freaking what's his name, Henry Gyrich or somebody like that. I think Jonah Hill's
he'd be
very
great.
good. Yeah, Jonah Hill's very good at playing the sort of exasperated, like that meme of him rubbing his eyes and stuff. Him, a person like kind of a middle management person in this genocidal government enterprise. I think that's funny. Like every cog in the machine isn't privy to all the evil. Somebody has to file the papers. Somebody has to show up and be the liaison and sit in on boring meetings and stuff. And I think we can
He's
kind of
the
get the
Martin
analogy.
Sheen of this one, right?
Mm.
Wait,
Yeah,
am I saying the right? Whoever was in Black Panther, the guy that's
Martin
he's a
Freeman.
Sheen.
Martin
Freeman. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah, all right,
go.
well, take that over. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, people can know how stupid I am that I think that he's related to Emilio Estevez. That's fine. Keep it in.
Well, here's okay. So I just want to tackle Scorsese always has to tell an allegory about the Italian experience in New York. So I get that, but from my take on Italian and Jews in New York in the 50s is essentially just like two ethnic groups that really aren't that different that absolutely hate each other. Which I do think can play into this. I mean, that dynamic is essentially like it's just rival gangsters who are hated by society at large, so they end up hating each other, just trying to be a little bit better than the other hated group.
Dude,
And I feel like,
good.
yeah, no, go please take
No.
it from there.
No. What I would say is to that, it is very much, and maybe this is a silly example, as silly as anything. It's like the Warriors. All those gangs in New York, all those gangs in New York, if they got together, could swamp the police. The police are a gang, make no mistake. The government is a gang, make no mistake. But under them are the regular people gangs who aren't as funded as the police gang or the government gang. They have a little bit more trouble organizing, right? So you got these, and the mutants are just, in the end, Charles Xavier is Cyrus, who comes and tells everybody, "We've got the street, suckers. Can you dig it?" He's talking to his mind power.
Can we keep that line in the final script, please?
That would be amazing. Well, listen, I mean, from a Scorsese point of view, there is something to almost treating this like The Departed. Like, can we follow individual members of X Factor, X Force, and maybe even some other group that becomes the Brotherhood of Mutants, and maybe they're all sort of trying to play against each other, and it becomes just this weird tangle of allegiances, right? Like, who is going to stay loyal to the group that they fell in on, and who is going to sort of realize, like, all of this is stupid, all of this is just us killing each other, opening the door for Xavier to have his Cyrus moment.
And you know, it's funny, as Wolverine has allowed himself to be used by government organizations before. I'm just saying, what if in like the 7th of 10 episodes or the 6th of 8 or whatever, some super hunter comes and he's whooping everybody's ass, and guess what? It's Wolverine, thinking he's fighting on the side of the angels. He's shown himself to be brainwashable and recruitable all over the place. I'm just saying.
Not a no but a no and. One of the other interesting ways to use Wolverine is like if we're doing 10 episodes and for like the first half of the show, the Xavier Institute is sort of much talked about but never seen. And then finally, when somebody gets there to infiltrate the Xavier Institute, we're almost seeing the X2 scene from the other point of view. So instead of like being in Wolverine's hip pocket, it's like, all right, for the first time, somebody's going to go in to kidnap Charles Xavier or whatever it is. And it turns out not only is Wolverine there, because I think we left him there at the end of our post-credit sequence of Wolverine. Not only is Wolverine there, but there's other kids there that are freaking weaponized. And it becomes like that just feels like a great stakes raising moment where it's like all this talk about the Xavier Institute, and then when our heroes, right? Especially if we've got this guy who's loyal to X Factor, this other guy who's loyal to X Force, maybe one swaps one way or the other. they finally get to the mansion, and it's like, oh my God, like people are dying. In true Scorsese fashion, the blood is going. I don't know.
Well, can I get some clarification on what you mean though? By like, okay, in at the end of our movie, refresh me. I thought he was coming up on the lawn, but we didn't necessarily establish that he goes inside or meets anybody or anything. It's just sort of like we can deposit him at the mansion for some reason, and he's outside. He's an outsider, and then there's So that being the case, he could have been there for almost any reason. Given how, you know what I mean? I'm just saying that's just interesting to me. It could be, we could decide why he's there later, frankly.
Fair. Well, listen, maybe the thing to do at this point is let's try to start picking some stars, right? Let's try to start picking at least characters that we want to feature. And I think one of the interesting things is if we're talking X-Force, X-Factor, X-Men, maybe, nascent Brotherhood, we can pick one or two people from like the classic lineups of all those teams and start to mix and match and see how their personal stories might intersect in this world that we've created. So go ahead, Ron.
I mean, look, I personally want to see a good Storm. I think Storm has been done bad on every single movie, and I would love to see something where we tell a little bit of her story, at least in this series. And the best thing about a series is we actually have the time to tell an actual story and an arc and learn more about that character and give someone a chance to really make Storm as cool and powerful as she can be.
Makes sense.
Look, I'll just throw this out there as just at least it's one track. Like, I still like the idea of like this happens to you in your teens. So I would focus this around like mid to late teenagers. Like I'm not super interested personally in seeing like 35-year-old Scott Summers. I feel like we almost got an interesting like 18-year-old Scott Summers, and then again they just weren't interested in him. So there's like a lot of characters like that where it's just like, yeah, like let's take a handful and maybe, I would start from the beginning, honestly. Like I would start from the beginning of whatever their stories are. How did they get involved in this,
Well, and I think that like what you guys suggested earlier of them trying to be recruited to infiltrate the X-Men mansion or, Xavier's school for gifted children might be the entry point for the youth who are involved with these paramilitary groups. Possibly. What do you guys think?
How are they being found?
I mean, the way that I would think about it is sort of the same way that was happening in our Wolverine movie, where essentially there's maybe even rival government agencies that are chasing down sort of tall tales, right? Like things that sort of these it's almost like an X-Files setup, which we sort of explicitly referenced in our Wolverine movie. And so I think it's just an extension of that. But the other side of that is people who are self-reporting, people who are like, oh my God, this happened to me. Oh my God, this happened to my kid. Is my kid going to be an Avenger? I sort of think that that's in the Marvel world, that's what the question would become.
That's an interesting thing, because especially just watching Falcon Winter Soldier and some of these other post Endgame things, there is kind of this looming thought in the minds of the MCU of like, what is the next iteration of the Avengers? So yeah, if you're a kid and you're like, oh, it could be me, you could voluntarily sign yourself up to get slaughtered. That's really interesting.
And I think that's what X Factor is, really. I don't think X Factor is necessarily the Olivia Trask mutant hunting program. I think X Factor is some sort of front where it's people who report themselves to the government get recruited into the X Factor program. And I think what you're talking about, Billy, can still happen. Some get killed, some get disappeared, and then some become the face. But I don't know. Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, no. I was thinking maybe this is too big, but what if it's Cassandra Nova? And follow me here. Or if we give Bolova Trask Cassandra Nova's qualities. Because I think an interesting thing about Cassandra Nova was she was trying to make an extinction level event happen with mutantdom, even though she was a super powerful mutant and all this kind of jazz, but she was almost like a cosmic entity that got, we could put all that to the side. All I'm saying is there are people with an interest in controlling the mutants they can control and killing all the rest. And that person can be a mutant or not. That person can work with humans to kill all the other mutants. So like A, all the mutants that exist are under their collective thumb, and B, they're at the top of that pyramid above the humans and definitely above the lower mutants. If that was a larger thing that was happening, that I wouldn't mind that. Just
I kind of love that. I'm also picturing a scene where Helen Mirren pulls a Gene Hackman in Superman the movie and takes her wig off to reveal that she's bald. And it's like, oh, damn, she's like the long lost twin sister of Charles Xavier.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, even if we didn't give her all that lineage, but like the basics are there. I hate mutants as much as anybody. They're useless to me unless they're under my thumb. I'll use the government. A mutant using the government to kill other mutants. Damn, that's amazing on some level.
Then also after that, the mutants having to save the regular people who were just hunting them from this more powerful mutant.
Maybe. Isn't she? She's just trying to kill mutants.
But way down the road. But doesn't? But she also. Well, okay, because you talked about power, right? This is one of the things we have to have in here is someone getting some kind of power, and then that power basically bringing them down. Maybe Cassandra Nova could be that character.
You know, I kind of think there is something interesting, and we do absolutely get the Scorsese sort of generational rise and fall if part of the early part of this series is sort of the life story of Olivia Trask and sort of how does she come to, you know, want to round up all mutants. There's something to this. I don't quite know the way into it, but the idea of, number one, I don't know that she needs to be like the psychic projection that was eaten in the womb, which is the Cassandra Nova thing. But I think her being Charles Xavier's like estranged sister is an interesting way into Xavier, because you can essentially give her his same backstory, but she turns out to be a genocidal mad person. And so you're sort of can you tell the story of how Xavier came to his mission through the lens of this woman who had the same sort of power set and upraising, but who came to a totally different conclusion. There's something really interesting to that, and it leaves Magneto out of it.
Well, also to that, just real quick, to that point, if she, I think we can make it really simple for Billy as well, because I was getting confused a little bit too. If she is making an evil X-Men, full stop. Part of their whole mission is to go out and find different mutants and stuff. They have that whole thing set up. She sits in a chair. She's everything. She's Professor X for all intents and purposes. She gets Storm. She gets this guy, that guy, whatever. Makes them into a team. The whole thing. But the side effect was all the mutants they find that they can't militarize or come to their group, they put them off in some Genosha prison. She doesn't tell the rest of the X-Men that, but that's what happens to them. Or they go to these weirdos that pick them apart. And once they find that out, they'll obviously know that they're on the wrong side of history. But yeah, evil X-Men, and then maybe the X-Force or somebody else are the people who are like the evil mutants. The evil mutants are evil team fights, are the people with the temerity to go, you guys are traitors. Storm, Rogue, whoever, you guys are traitors. You guys are the trash. You guys are the people the government's using to persecute us. You idiots. You know, I think that could be like a bombshell.
I think that's super dope. And I mean, I think that then lends itself to, you go with you almost go with the all new X-Men lineup on Olivia Trask's X Factor evil team, right? So it becomes sort of this international group of super powerful mutants. You could have Nightcrawler, Storm, Colossus, Warpath if we want them. Maybe
or you just really flip the script and it's like, you know, you do the original lineup so that, you know, the first image we see released, you know, publicly is our classic lineup and you get really excited. Then you watch the first episode, you're like, you find out, wait, they are not X-Men though. How is this lineup not an X-Men, you know?
There is something kind of awesome to that where it's like, it looks like an X-Men and it quacks like an X-Men, but it's like totally reversed. Like that would be such a weird kind of mind screw.
I think that'd be really fun. And then at that point, like, okay, we'll get there eventually, but we're actually starting before that where they were not that. I don't know. I just think there's something fun about the reveal of like, you think it's going to be this classic X-Men lineup, and it is, but they're not X-Men,
And I think then, so you have essentially the original X-Men lineup led by Olivia Trask. You could almost have some version, well, I don't know. You could have some version of the Hellfire Club that's sort of the predecessor to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which is sort of like something in and of itself. I still like X-Force as like a FARC, style terrorist group, which could be, I mean, do we go as crazy as like you put Cable in this movie or this series rather?
I mean, who doesn't want
one thing
Cable
I
in
will
a-
say, and I say this as someone who watched all the X-Men cartoons and the movies, and I wasn't as big into X-Men in the comics. Like, I just want to make sure, like, the thing that's made Marvel and the MCU specifically so successful is that it's pretty accessible to the layman. So like, as we keep going, like, I would just say, like, keep in mind, like, we're getting a little niche. Like, let's make sure everything is pretty, like,
I agree.
accessible.
Yeah,
that would be my own
and
thing.
to that end, I think we hit people with the double whammy, and they see a bald person gathering up a team. They see that they're being trained. They see that evil mutants are fighting them, and we complicate it from that, because that is X-Men. That is the X-Men setup. So I think if we do it just that complicated, and as it unspools, you're realizing that, oh, this isn't them just taking Charles Xavier and making him a woman to wokeize it, as the neckbeards on the internet will definitely accuse us of.
It's kind of interesting, yeah.
We're playing a smarter game than that. We're showing you that in this continuity, the second generation team, the one that we all know and love, to me personally, I want it to be the team that we know and love, and I don't mean Scott and them. I think Scott and them are part of, and I don't want to get too fanboy, to Billy's point, but what if they were part of that? All this Charles Xavier stuff, maybe we make them earn the right to see Charles and the old team together. Maybe the old team are very powerful in their own way. And I think if our team is being put together by the government on an international group to try to fight this old team of grizzled people who know what to do, and because I don't know, man, 18-year-old Scott Summers to me is less interesting than 30-year-old Scott Summers, just because 30-year-old Scott Summers knows what he is now. He has this swag about him. When old Scott Summers comes upon our new team, our team has Storm and Colossus and this, that, and the other, and he goes, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And he's on the battlefield against them by himself. And he just opens up that thing and blasts the hell out of them and ruins them, because he's got so much more experience and all this kind of jazz. But we earn that in like season 2 or something. And this, I think we just keep it regular. The ones that people want to see. People never got to see Nightcrawler. They never got to see Storm. No, they never got to see Scott, but I think we need to earn them to see Scott and Charles. I think let's make that giant size X-Men team, even down to Warpath or Thunderbird rather, and even down to maybe we use Forge as part of the bad guy team or something. I don't know.
Do you finally do a Gambit?
Dude, I was gonna say, do we just straight up not put them all together, but just use that 90s Jim Lee X-Men team, and they're all scattered about all these different, these 3-4 different sort of allegiances that we have. So X Factor could be like, I don't think Psylocke is the most interesting character, but like, it's like Gambit, Storm, Archangel, and somebody else. And then X-Force is
I'll
Colossus.
only approve of Gambit if Jonah Hill is playing Gambit. And doing a really bad accent. That's what I like to see from Gambit. I want to see Gambit from Jonah Hill. That's obviously a joke, because I figured we needed some comedy in this for a second, but let's get back to it.
No, it's tough because there's like a lot of masters we're trying to serve here, just from like a fan and like trying to choose characters is a huge pain in the butt. There's no other way to put it.
But remember this, since we're doing 2 seasons of streaming in theory, and maybe more, we have the availability to to mesh out those characters. So it won't be as full as a blockbuster action movie would be in that situation, because they could come and go in enough, time to really get to see these characters do what they do. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
let's still decide on characters though, and I just think if we try to design an X-Men team first, what would be the most interesting group of characters on an X-Men team that we have to follow each? Where again, I use the Star Trek analogy because imagine if Star Trek TNG said, well, how about we use a Breen and a this and a that, and this guy who appeared in one issue of Star Trek comics or whatever, instead of going strong lead, counselor, war guy, second in command. You got to put it together in order to make it be an ensemble. So let's think about the ensemble.
I would also say then that it has to be like teenagers, early 20s, at least for the X Factor team that we're talking about, like our Cassandra Nova character leading. Because if the older guys are with Charles and they're a bomb that we drop later in the season or in season 2, I'm with that. But like, let's try to find characters that work as teenagers. I think Storm is an obvious one. I think Rogue is an obvious one. I think Kitty Pryde is an obvious one.
Yes.
It's an all-female team with a female leader. Kind of interesting.
I also think Colossus works best as a kid. I'm sorry, I get Deadpool making him some old fogey that sucks, and I even like that because he finally looked cool. But he's like 17 when you first meet him, and he draws, and he's sensitive, and he's nice. And him being on this team with these gals, and like him having to Hulk out and stuff. Maybe I'm being too much of a Colossus stan, but I think the original version of Colossus is very interesting and very teen.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree that we should use Colossus. Like, it's a great character, and now that CGI has advanced to the point where we can make him look cool, I say let's do it.
I don't want to ape the X2 story with Pyro, but are there evil mutants that we could add to this team that would go bad later?
I mean, I like Sunfire. You want to have a Sunfire is really an underused character because he's perfect for you to throw away later, but he's very powerful. You know what I mean? He's like a Human Torch type guy who kicks it with the X-Men, and and he's got a temper.
I would say, look, I don't quite agree with you, Ed, in terms of the Cyclops thing. I don't find I Know Who I Am Now, so let's go very interesting. But one of the most interesting things that they've done with Cyclops in the comics in the last 20 some odd years was they turned Cyclops into almost a terrorist. They made him kind of the unhinged, crazy bad guy. Oh,
dude, yes.
And so I definitely think let's split the difference. A 20-some-year-old Cyclops who we can go there eventually. We don't have to start there, but I do love that he's not necessarily a bad guy in the comics, but he definitely is like, I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to take people away from you that don't believe what you believe. He's very much like he has a Magneto mindset. He's not necessarily evil, but he does.
Absolutely. Well, what if we flip his arc then? What if you start him as a terrorist, reform him via Charles Xavier, but then movie 2 or whatever, somewhere down the line, Xavier dies, and suddenly some of those old terrorist ways start slipping back into his MO. And so it becomes like he can be the leader of X-Force, our terrorist group, in this series. He can then go on to lead the Xavier School, and then when Charles Xavier is dead, he's starting to branch off into his weird militaristic ways again, and it sets up a whole other... That sets up your X-Men versus Avengers conflict later down the road.
And Cyclops being our Magneto. Magneto headed the school as well, and Magneto backslid as well. We are making Cyclops our Magneto.
Cyclops is kind of like Saw Gerrera in Rogue One. Like he's a good guy, kinda, but he does a lot of bad things for what he believes is good, and it kind of is good,
Yeah,
that's. I mean, guys, there's a version of this show that's kind of a Cyclops Storm two-hander. where Cyclops
Okay.
is sort of the de facto leader of X-Force, and Storm sort of becomes the de facto leader of X-Factor, and neither one is really doing the right thing, and they both need Xavier to give them sort of a mission and a purpose in life. But like I don't know, man. That feels right to me.
This is what happens. This series is the mutants before Xavier.
Yes.
It's like how our Lord of the Rings was Sauron before everybody on the field laughing with each other. Like all that stuff, all the interesting juice of why is he needed. I love this. I really do.
No, it's kind of awesome. And I think then you also parallel that with like the X Factor team is losing faith in Olivia Trask, sort of the deeper they get in. And so then you get that slow reveal of Olivia Trask is not just our Bolivar Trask analog. She's actually a Cassandra Nova analog. And it becomes this backstory that you can kind of unspool in pieces.
Yep.
And then
they're discovering.
Yeah,
Sorry,
they're
ahead.
discovering it. And then she becomes your entry point to actually meeting Charles Xavier because she has a history with him.
Which
And
has
so this
become such a staple of the MCU, which is calling a character one thing, giving them the characteristics of another, and then it turns out it's like this other character. Like, go back all the way to like Iron Man 3 or something. You'll see it everywhere. You know, what's his face's Guy Pearce's character is like completely different in the comics, but you kind of give him the name and then you move into another direction. It's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's start talking cast, guys. We know that we want Storm. We know that we want Cyclops. We probably want Rogue. There's also something possibly interesting to do with Rogue and Captain Marvel, like actually give her the comic book origin of her powers. We know we want a Colossus, and then I'm guessing we're going to stay with Helen Mirren playing Olivia Trask, who's actually sort of Cassandra Nova in hiding.
I mean,
just
I
as a starting
love
point.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think Cyclops might be our easiest cast, but also the opportunity where we can get craziest. For Storm, man, can we just agree that we want an actual like dark-skinned African woman to play Storm or girl?
Absolutely. Like in her 20s playing teens or 20s, early 20s situation to where we can grow with this character for a long time. And yes, of definite African descent. That would be ideal.
Yeah. I don't know young actors enough to just pull one out of my hat, but I'm sure in the Disney stable, there's some awesome person that will be brought up.
I'm just trying to think if there was like a recent sort of 4-quadrant film that any of these actors could come from. I still feel like we could round out X Factor with the giant size all new X-Men team and just throw Nightcrawler on there as well. And it also makes a certain amount of sense that like these are the most powerful mutants from all around the world that the government has sort of rounded up to be part of their group. And then Cyclops is over there with X Factor with sort of the dregs and the weirdos. And I don't know exactly who that is off the top of my head, but Beast could definitely be there. It's sort of like you've got your Benetton ad over here for X Factor, all the pretty people, and then Cyclops is with all like the freaks.
Wolfsbane.
Wolfsbane's interesting. Probably don't want her and Beast down there, but Wolfsbane.
I don't have enough lint rollers for that.
It's also interesting because Wolfsbane is Scottish. It's also kind of interesting if we try to just go full international with this cast. You know what I mean? Sure. Like pick all the most sort of international X-Men.
The hard part's going to be at this point, who has not been in a Marvel movie at this point?
I know. That's literally what I was thinking. Like,
so I actually, this is a little bit of a backwards way of thinking about it, but a couple weeks ago, actually now at this point, it's probably a month ago, I was watching Saturday Night Live, and I was blown away by how charismatic and amazing Reggae John Page is. So is there a role that we could give to him? I know this is backwards way of thinking of it, but it's just like he is such an untapped talent that I guarantee you, especially after that Netflix series took off, like he's the next big thing, and there's very few next big things that are not already signed to one of these things.
He could be. I mean, he could be Cyclops.
I was thinking that. I was like, does he look like he may be too old to be Cyclops? But he does have that intensity, that smoldering intensity that I think that Cyclops kind of has.
If the age is the age, if the character, if the actor fixed the character, we'll worry about the age later. Like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, unless it's like, asking Robert De Niro to play.
Don't give Scorsese any ideas.
Yeah, he'll take it. He'll take it.
They'll put some de-aging on Robert De Niro, and next thing you know, he's playing Scott Summers.
I'll say Rick John Page for Scott Summers, and then if someone has something better, then I'll suggest him for something else.
No, I think that's a super interesting suggestion. I don't know off the top of our heads anything else. I know that we're all probably searching for options.
Oh man, Jensen Ackles?
Don't bring that nonsense into season 4, Ron. Come on.
Hey, Ron, he just landed a big Batman gig, so you're not too far off.
Is he playing Robin Hood's voice?
He's voicing Batman in the Long Halloween cartoon adaptation.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Man. Is it awesome?
Wow.
I don't know if that's awesome.
It is. He's more talented than you think he is.
No, he's about as talented as I think he is.
He's exactly as talented.
He's exactly where I think he is.
Exactly as talented.
Yeah, it's tough because, like I said, like I'm just trying to think of like any performance I've seen lately that blows me away that's like not already in the MCU. I'm guessing for like Colossus.
Can any of the Stranger Things kids play any of our characters?
No,
guys, come on,
no.
Is there anyone from
sweet Lord? It's this is an interesting point, and we run up against this every time we end up with a teenage cast.
Yeah.
Like they're just not cranking out those early 20s movie stars like they used to. We're just in a different world now.
Well, and as a general rule, I'm not Googling young actors. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So that's a safe strategy, Rob.
Yeah. I just.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing that we run up against. So what are we gonna do? Because this is a lot of cast for like not a bunch of people that frankly should be unknowns to a certain extent. They should be on stuff like.
Are we casting Xavier or no?
Ooh, interesting. I mean that could be an interesting conversation.
I have a really left field, but I think it would be perfect suggestion for Xavier.
Lay on us.
I'm gonna say the man who can do no wrong, the man who inspires us, Kyle Chandler. I think you shave Kyle Chandler's head and he is perfect. That guy can unite anybody. Hands down. I've seen him in terrible movies and he's amazing. I've never seen him give a bad performance.
He's given those Friday Night Lights speeches like to the X-Men.
That's what Charles Xavier does. That's who he is. He's the ultimate freaking Coach Taylor. He's the Coach Taylor of mutants.
I don't hate that. I will say that like Kyle Chandler can also play like smarmy and sinister, which I think you need a smidge of in a good Xavier, because you never quite know if you're getting the whole story from him, which is something they never quite played in the movies. Like Patrick Stewart was always sort of the ultimate father figure and just pure and good. But I think in the comics, you get a little bit more of a question mark around Xavier. And I think Kyle Chandler could bring that. That's an interesting choice.
I don't hate that either. I also want to throw out my old standby. I used him as my analog for Picard, Mark Strong. I think he's good. And I think he never gets to do anything but do exposition for other people's stuff, which this is. So
it's just so expected, I don't mean to be that guy, but
no, but I get it, and I also think that an expected choice somewhere in this melange could help us a lot.
I wonder. I mean, there is some interesting choices in our Picard choices where Jude Law's already been in the MCU.
Mhm.
Daniel Craig hasn't, although I don't know if he reads as a good Charles Xavier.
Also, if I was him and I was 50 damn years old with that much beautiful hair, I wouldn't shave it for y'all losers. I know that.
I just wouldn't follow anything Daniel Craig said. Like,
That's fair.
I'd be intimidated by him, but I wouldn't be inspired by him.
That's fair. You know, the other weird sort of X factor to all this is that theoretically Xavier is a sibling to Helen Mirren, so they should be in a similar age range.
Yeah, but even if we modified it to where
Totally.
they knew each other before type of thing, or even like he comes up as like a 40-year-old and she's rounding 50 or whatever, and they like have a tete-a-tete at some point. The bottom line is the earliest people, the coolest thing about the Magneto and the Xavier thing is these are the early adopters of knowing what the hell mutants are and the disparate paths they go to figuring out that concept, what to do with it.
I mean, that's an easy solve, by the way, is that Charles Xavier is old as he just mentally projects that he looks younger to everybody out there.
In that case, we just cast like Kellen Lutz as Charles Xavier.
Sure, yeah, why not? Get the
Alexander
cheapest option.
Skarsgård. Oh, that could be,
Yeah.
that could be
So
all right.
and also this whole concept, the one thing I will say about getting youngsters that are just knocking it out of the park, we've tried the get the youngest stars you can think of and throw them in this movie. Miles Teller's stupid face, not Miles Teller, but Miles Teller Light. That type of person, we've ground those guys into the ground. We've grabbed up Sansa Stark for Christ's sake and threw her in a lackluster movie. I don't think that should be our approach. I think a lot of these people should be unknowns. I just think if we just get down our cast of X-Men, which I think we did, the giant size X-Men team, more or less, you know, is our X Factor team. And then you know, Cyclops has the Morlocks basically, and the Marrows and all the weirdos, the people who can't just walk down Main Street as a mutant. Like Bill said earlier, they're not the Benetton ads, you know.
I think we're in a unique position being a Marvel property that the stars of these things are the characters themselves, not necessarily the actor, which is there are very few franchises that can get away with like, well, Storm is the star. Like it almost like Storm is going to make that actress. That actress isn't going to make Storm. So I feel like
Very
we can
true.
get away with it.
And if this is being done on a Disney Plus budget, I mean, you figure there's one or two stars and we're already paying for Helen Mirren, and then you got to cast like a TV show.
Yeah. For us to have actual actors for all these parts, we would have had to been doing that before, and it belies our whole improv nature of how we put this together. I didn't sit around all night last night picking up 40 African actresses under 22. You know, that isn't what I did last night.
But I do think, just to bring it full circle and really stroke myself, Reggae John Page is someone we can get not cheap, but not at like ridiculous prices, but he will be worth ridiculous prices.
He's at the perfect cusp. Perfect.
Exactly. Get him on the cast, get maybe one or two more for, you know, non-X-Men roles that are a little bit, you know, he got Helen Mirren too. Like it's no one's going to be like, no one's going to watch that. No one's in it. Like this, Marvel's past that at this point, I think. Like Chris Pratt was not a leading man when Guardians of the Galaxy came out. That was like absurd. Dave Bautista, if you weren't a wrestling fan, you didn't know who he was. Like that cast was like Zoe Saldana and like why is Cruella de Vil in this? I can't think of her name. So I think we're okay.
Oh, that is an out of the box. I didn't even know who the hell you were talking about, and I was like, reggaeton Page. What the hell is this dude talking about? Because I don't watch
Daddy Yankee? No.
Yeah. Bad Bunny? What are you talking about? And so I went Pitbull, and so I went and I looked him up, and that is a great choice for Cyclops because he puts forth everything we need. I am of age, but not old at all. I am handsome. I am slim. I'm cool. I might have an edge if you really got to know me, but I won't let you. This is a great choice for this guy. And that's interesting. Him and Storm having to fight it out for the leadership role. It has another a wrinkle there. It's really nice. It's really nice.
Well, guys, oh no, you know what? How do we do this for a series? Do we need to pick a showrunner
Oh.
instead of a director?
Yeah, I think showrunner is appropriate.
Oh,
Well, and
I mean-
I also think it's like we pick a showrunner and maybe a couple of their like really lieutenant producers.
I think that's how we did it
go.
for one of the movies. Was it Indie that we did way back in the day? We chose a couple directors for episodes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just because of some of the themes that we talked about and the fact that he's already got a relationship with Marvel, it's like I almost wonder if you back the money truck up to Ryan Coogler to run this show. I know it's not quite what he does, but it's just such an interesting mashup of like some of the work he did with Black Panther with some of the more grounded work he did in things like Fruitvale Station or even Creed, where like I could see the tone, right? I could see the tone of like these teenage kids sort of drafted into a war that they're not even certain is happening and trying to figure out where their allegiances lie and why.
Oh,
I don't know. I feel like he'd make a meal out of that.
okay. I just have one, and I'm gonna throw him out here last because I always throw him out here for directing jobs, but it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. Our boy Rick Famuyiwa.
Yeah, I was just thinking Dope.
Dude, Dope. He did Dope,
was
which
just thinking
showed the
Dope.
lives of teens. He just did The Mandalorian, which is high dollar
yeah.
Disney. He knows that pipeline. He studied at the feet of Favreau, even though frankly he's such a great filmmaker he didn't have to. But he definitely understands how this machine works. And I just think it's just the sort of thing for him to be able to do. To
Ed,
just
you know
really-
what?
yeah.
I'm going to cover your swear jar. Here you go. $5 in the swear jar. You don't even have to pay for it.
No, you know what? It's so true, man. Like, not only does he have the writing chops of someone who knows how to do a premium series, but like the idea of finding a middle ground between the tone of Dope and the tone of something like The Mandalorian is literally exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a home run choice.
Look, guys, I mean, I think it's obvious that it should be Greg Berlanti or Millar.
My God.
Do you want me to just remove Ron from this? I do have the
We
power.
can't take these meetings with Ron. If he's going to say stuff like that, we're going to
I
get
can
laughed
mute
out of
him.
every studio.
I can't mute him.
Oh, that's true. We can do that.
Imagine if Marty was in here when he was talking about Jensen Ackles, for Christ's sakes.
Oh, God.
Well, guys, for the benefit of Kevin Feige and Martin Scorsese, let's just say we have achieved reboot for the first time in season 4. And let's recap it. Here we go. Get him on the horn because we've got an X-Men pitch for you. This is a Disney Plus series that serves as a lead-in to future X-Men movies, and we are seeing all of the greatest X-Men characters splintered and scattered amongst warring factions of mutants in a world where the existence of mutants is not even yet known. On the X-Factor team, fronted by the U.S. government, we have Storm, we have Rogue, we have Colossus, we have Nightcrawler, and we maybe have Shadowcat. And they're a group of teenagers, the most powerful teenagers that have come forward to be recruited by Olivia Trask, played by Helen Mirren, who is a deep cover sister of Charles Xavier with a genocidal agenda. On the other side, the FARC Colombian terrorist-style organization X-Force is led by Regé-Jean Page, playing Cyclops in a hint to what he will later become as the heir apparent to Charles Xavier, giving us sort of the first step toward a true X-Men vs. Avengers movie. In the course of this movie, they are dealing with the U-Men who are trying to harvest mutant organs and the looming threat, the mysterious threat of the Charles Xavier Institute, which everybody fears and nobody quite knows the nature of. Towards the end of the first season, we can finally introduce Charles Xavier. Maybe it's Mark Strong, maybe it's Billy's choice. And we are taking baby steps as all these teenage heroes try to suss out who they are, what they stand for, and why, setting Charles Xavier up to be the true Martin Luther King of the mutant movement when he says, "Let us stand together, let us have a purpose." So, not only do we have a few seasons of a Disney Plus show, we've got the setup for Mutants as a franchise. The X-Men is still your first movie, but X Factor is the show that we are pitching you today. Did I leave anything out?
I mean, just put some respect on Kyle Chandler's name, please.
Oh, damn, that's right.
Put some respect on it.
I'm
just
sorry.
a little bit.
I'm
You
sorry.
you also left out when Tom Holland's going to show up as Spider-Man.
You know what though?
You know-
He probably is going to. I mean, I think that'd be really interesting.
He needs to spend some time hanging out with Dacre Montgomery as the Human Torch in our Fantastic Four reboot before
Yeah.
he shows up in our X-Men franchise.
That's
Okay,
a good point.
Let's
Good
let
point.
it just be that. So, Mr. Feige, Mr. Scorsese, what do you say?
You know what? I think it's not bad. I think there's something there. I think you got something. I think it's in good shape for me to hand it over to my good friend, Nicholas Palegi. We worked together on a couple movies, most recently Casino in 1996. And he's due. He's due for a comeback. I told Kevin, if I am going to do this movie, then Nick is going to write it. And that's all there is to it.
So we did all the hard work for nothing?
No. You did great work here. I'm sure we will pay you a nominal fee. But you got to talk to Kevin about that. You got to talk to Kevin. You know what? I got a lunch. I got to run. But good work. I'm going to take your pitch, and it's going to be great. You might be invited to premiere. You got to talk to my secretary. I don't know. I don't know who gets invited, but maybe you come. Okay. Goodbye.
Wait, so we just give the pitch and we don't get to stay on the series?
The hell?
Listen, guys, credits are overrated, okay? You did good work here today. Martin Scorsese loved it. He loved it enough. He's going to pass it on to a real screenwriter. You should feel very happy about what you've done. So listen, great meeting you all. You've done great work on the Mutants. And listen, you watch that special thanks section in the credits. You might just see your names up there. All right, I got a jet. I've got a meeting with the Rothschilds in Switzerland. I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Well,
Man.
All right, but Bill, you said you have another meeting set up already anyways, right?
yeah, but I was kind of hoping we'd get a Marvel job out of this.
Yeah,
me
that
too.
gravy train lasts off for a good long while. Damn it.
And especially since we give him a pitch that would take multiple seasons. I mean, I wasn't messing around when I did that. That's your kid's college fund, Billy.
I
That's
know.
That's the only way to make money in streaming is to make a series because you don't get paid enough for the movie.
Uh,
Guys, I have a feeling this might be a long season.